Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing yet another movie review for you all, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror film from the USA, English language, released in the year 2025, directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, and this film is called Heretic. So Heretic is about two women from the Church of Latter-day Saints. They're sent out to try and convert people to the religion. They're going from door to door, they're knocking, and not a lot of people are taking them seriously. You know, it is definitely a pain when you get a knock on the door from religious types, but so things are not going very well. But then they come across a mysterious man in this secluded house who appears friendly enough. He invites them inside to try, talk about religion, but unfortunately there's more to this guy than they first thought, and they may never leave this house again. So whether or not that's the case is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Heretic. I saw this trailer and there were two reasons why I wanted to go and see this movie. Number one, Hugh Grant is in this film. Now Hugh Grant is from romantic comedies, they're not my thing, but the reason why it gained my interest is that this was actually a Hugh Grant film in horror. And so my beloved genre, to have Hugh Grant in there, I thought this is something very different. And so that was definitely one of the reasons why I wanted to check this movie out. And number two, Scott Beck and Brian Woods are the directors. Now they directed a film called Haunt that I actually thought was really, really underrated. It was actually a very good film. And so putting those elements together, I thought this is definitely an incentive to go and watch the film. But it wasn't an incentive enough to actually make me go and see it straight away. I thought to myself, I'll go and watch it once it's released on DVD. And so finally it was released here in Australia on DVD, and I got my chance to see it. And after watching Heretic, I will say that this is one of the most surprising movies I've seen in a very long time, because I was expecting to hate it, but so the interest is there, but I really wasn't feeling as though the interest would be capitalised. But I came away from this movie really admiring it for what it is. So this is a religious subgenre horror film, and you're probably thinking to yourself, yet another one, but fortunately this is completely different from everything that you've seen before. This is a film that is definitely driven through script. It's not necessarily a movie that's going to horrify you through the visuals, but it's a horror film that's actually going to make you think. It's actually going to provoke a level of discussion, and it gives it a sense of maturity. This is a film where directors are taking the genre of horror seriously, and it's actually making it a more mature sort of experience. And so that's something that I really, really liked about this movie. This is phenomenally well written, and so the whole film has that conflicting interest in the opinions, and when they go against each other, it's a battleground of psychology, and that psychology is really well complemented by the overall atmosphere of this film. I thought the atmosphere inside this house was very suffocating. It was very claustrophobic, and as the discussion starts to progress, you start to see that these characters are unraveling, and each time they unravel, the more and more claustrophobic the situation is getting, because you feel as though something's off. And so psychology in this movie is amplified to a point where it's sort of as though I was on the edge of my seat, just because what these people are actually talking about. And so this is a sensitive issue about religion. This is a movie about how religion can be used in a good way as far as comforting someone, and also in a bad way to hide what your true intents are, and you're hiding behind the sense of religion. And so this is something that happens in every day, and this is what the thought-provoking material really comes through in Heretic. This is a film that does play a lot of bravery, because a lot of people are going to be very sensitive to the issue, but I thought as though it handled it in a way where it's not belittling religion and it's not pro-religion. It's actually a movie that's leaving it out there open-ended. And the open-ended ambiguity that this film has, I thought it kept a level of suspense. That suspense was the burning wick. The wick was going to the dynamite. You knew it was going to blow up, but you didn't know exactly how it was going to blow up. So it keeps you on the edge of your seat. It keeps you watching, and that's definitely something that a lot of directors fail to do these days. Directors fail to maintain that interest, but I felt as though these directors maintain the interest from start to finish. I thought the acting was absolutely fantastic. Hugh Grant shows his versatility through a man who's not so much out of the realms of what you're used to, but he has that sinister sort of undertone. The whole film has that level of subtlety. So it's not in your face, it's not over the top, it's just a very slow creeping sensation that something is off. And as Hugh Grant's character starts to unravel and you start to know a little bit more about him, you start to sense that is there that level of danger coming through. And as the movie gets more and more dark, I thought to myself, these two women are actually finding themselves in a position where they may not be able to rectify the situation. And so you feel as though by the time you realise something's off, it may already be too late. And that sudden realisation that it might be too late is a very scary thought. And so I thought that was fantastic. So the first half of this movie is psychology, and then the second half is the conclusion. And the conclusion is the horror. The horror that is the icing on the cake through all the anticipation. A lot of people say that the second half of this movie really ruined it, but I believe that it actually made it even better because, as I said, it's that conclusion, it's that what's around the door. Is it going to be that high impact, or is it going to be something that fizzles out? And when you actually get that high impact, I felt as though it was a reward for all the anticipation that you actually go through. So the first half of this film is psychology. The first half of the film is discussing the themes of this movie, and then the second half is going down a horror sort of road. And that horror road I thought was very competently handled. It has the elements of what made Haunt very good, is that it doesn't overdo the violence. The violence is there as a consequence of, you know, what is around the corner. And so it doesn't allow yourself to desensitize to what the situation is. So it's something I really liked. And some of it was really, really uncomfortable, very, very dark. And that dark sort of visual base complements the psychology that the film has, and it just brings together two subgenres, the subgenre of psychological horror and the other genre of visual sort of slasher type of horror, and it combines it well in a way that I just thought as though it was a very complete movie. And so that's something that I really, really like. The ambiguity of the film, there is reasons to believe that God exists in this movie, there's also reasons to believe that maybe he doesn't exist, and the feeling that he doesn't exist is terrifying because a lot of people don't want to feel alone. But the movie does have shades of, you know, pro and con religion, and it doesn't really take sides. And so that's something that I really like. For the first 3/4 of this movie, I just thought as though that level of ambiguity leaves you spinning in a whirlwind of uncertainty. And that uncertainty, just as I said, it really complements the visual horror that is that release valve. And the release valve is definitely something that I felt was needed because if it just played the psychology from start to finish, I thought as though it could have gone a little bit over the top and tiresome, but I just thought as though the conclusion and basically releasing that pressure valve in all of its carnage, I thought was a really good way to make a horror film. If I had issues with the movie, the last quarter of the film, it really does spell things out for you to a degree where I thought as though it could have been a lot better if it left it open-ended. And so the whole film has that open-ended quality, but when you have to hold the viewer's hand and, you know, dictate exactly what's going on, I thought that's definitely a downfall of horror movies these days, and it doesn't derail this experience, but I just felt as though it would have been a lot better if it stayed true to the consistency of the first 3/4. And there were certain scenes that I thought could have been edited a little bit more. It goes for a little bit too long, but pushing that aside, it is a phenomenal horror film that showcases that Hugh Grant does have versatility. He is typecast as that romantic comedy lead, but I definitely feel as though he can play a true villain in a way that doesn't go too far away from what you're used to with Hugh Grant. As I said at the start of this review, Hugh Grant has that lovable quality about him, and in this movie has that lovable quality, but as it slowly comes to the realisation that maybe there's more to him, that's where you get the sudden realisation that, okay, I'm in a really bad spot. And so it just lures you with that false sense of security, and once that security is taken away, I just felt as though it invoked that feeling of horror, it invoked that feeling of what I love about this genre, and these are directors that really understand that. So the supporting cast, they all do a fantastic job. It's a very minimalistic horror film, so it does have emphasis on the performances, but it's a phenomenally well-written script that allows these actors to portray characters that are very three-dimensional, and as I said, it provokes a lot of discussion. And so if you're pro-religion or against religion, there is something in this film for you. I felt as though it doesn't get offensive to the point where it's sticking its middle finger up at religion. It's just leaving it open-ended, and that's what makes Heretic the experience that it is. So overall, for this movie, a lot better than I was expecting. I'm going to give this movie a solid 4 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching movies, and I'll see you later.